another person. And that's where I think it's more of a holistic thing. I don't find myself in prayer to a single being, but I do find myself in presence and calm and relationship to the things that are around me, the things and the people that are around me. And I think we get to the same conclusion, although it's two different ways of appreciating life. I feel like this isn't the first time that I've been here. I don't think that this is the first life I've ever had.
Okay. Yeah. So if I may, I mean, I appreciate what you're saying. Just to say, I mean, in fact, a lot of things you said towards the end, you'll be surprised, these are the Islamic core values.
Yeah.
Core values in which looking after the environment is so essential. Like one of the signs of faith is actually removing a thorn from the path so that it's free for other people being hurt.
For them to be safe, to look out for others.
Yeah, one of the branches of faith, this is what it is. Looking after the animals and the plants. I mean, we cannot, even in warfare, sometimes when it's a necessity, right? We cannot go, for example, in fighting a war because of all this necessity, and then you destroy their crops, and they're totally forbidden. So Islam, I'm just giving you an example, even to like something like, you might say, in a warfare, you destroy everything of your enemy. He said, no, absolutely not. You don't destroy the cattle, the farms, nothing. They had nothing to do with your, the differences that you're having war with. So Islam asks you to treat holistically, the word you use, everything in the creation. In fact, let me give you two examples. There was a prostitute who was, of course, selling her body for a living, which, in God's ways, not acceptable to live your life accordingly. God has given you a life, not to sell your body, okay? At one point, she saw a thirsty dog, almost dying of thirst. She went to a well and quenched the thirst of the dog. Our Prophet ﷺ said, because of that, God has forgiven her and she'll go to paradise. Just showing how, by showing kindness and mercy to animals. So Islam is not such that it's a belief system in which you just look at a human being's welfare. No, you look after the environment. In fact, we are told that not to even pollute the air and the water and the land and so on, because it's a huge burden that we're placing. So all of the things that you talk about, how to look after the whole world around you, is a part and parcel of Islamic teaching. Core teaching, right, good. So you can connect to that already. The thing about a 4-year-old boy knowing a lot of things, recollecting and so on, with all due respect, right? Of course, I disagree with this idea that we have established way where we have verified some people recounting the past lives and so on and so forth. We hear lots of stories. Just like we hear stories of pastors coming on the stage and they see someone on the wheelchair and says, stand up and walk, and they keep walking.
That's literally an actor that was planted in the audience. But I mean, the story of the 4-year-old boy is actually very well documented and studied, and they found exactly who the person was, down to he was like a German soldier in World War II who crashed in a plane. He landed in Britain and lost his leg during the accident, and the child even had a strange birthmark above the same leg that he lost, and he drew pictures of all of the medals that this particular soldier had, and he even resembled him. And they found
it's impossible for him to have known this?
And it's impossible for him to have known it.
Why is it impossible for him to know?
Because he was a 4-year-old child raised mostly at home with his mother and father who weren't German.
No, why is it impossible for this connection to have known that information and to fed that information? To give you an example,
well, I don't think it's impossible. I think that these things that seem impossible are the things that keep me open-minded to not fully believing in one system or another.
No.
I think there's a
what I'm saying is, many of the things we know, just like example of the stage on a wheelchair of a Christian pastor, for example, to a Christian mindset, that's a miracle. They don't see past that. They would not be able to see easily past that. They will say, no, it's a miracle. So there's some kind of, it's not cognitive dissonance, it's something opposite in which they cannot see that actually this could have been manipulated and tricked because of their particular worldview in which they're engulfed in. So that leads them to accept that quite easily. Likewise, someone who is spiritual and has an understanding of reincarnation to be a possibility and so on, it will be easy for them to say, yeah, a 4-year-old can know that. But for a critic, a critical-minded individual will say, okay, is it impossible for them? No. Is there impossible for them to have known by connection from others feeding that information? Because nowadays, for example, we can get a 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old giving lectures about human relation between man and woman, how to have conduct sexual relation and so on, because they can be all taught that. They can memorize it on taught. They can be taught in terms of how to say this and so on, whether it's the parents, by themselves and so on. So you cannot simply take that to be because it's all well documented and so on. If that was the case, reincarnation is possible as a belief system, it shouldn't be just one individual. You should be, for example, you, me, and others. We should all somehow regain that
Not necessarily.
previous memory. Why not? What's stopping us?
I think that it may be specific to people who've had traumatic deaths or something like that.
What's stopping us from recollecting our past life, if there was a past life?
And I also think that the point that you're getting at is if we're not to believe others' like lived experience in the way that they're just saying it, because they could just be telling a story, then what we really should be believing is our own lived experience and what the truth that we can derive from that. Which is why I take issue in when someone writes something down and then says that it is the word of God. I have trouble with that because
I can understand
it's the
that.
same thing.
But there's a difference between the Quran, by the way. We can highlight that.
Sure, but if you do take the time to write down words and then sell it as truth to people,
with evidence,
then it could be the same thing as someone making up a story about their 4-year-old having a past life experience.
When you make a comparison,
in the way that I feel about my spirituality is being grounded in this present moment and feeling the life that vibrates around me and experiencing love and bliss and experiencing the contrast of life. That's the true lived experience.
What stops you from recollecting your past memory?
I think that we're all human beings with amnesia. I think that we don't remember.
Why not?
I don't think that we can. I don't know that it's natural for